Most people remember her as Ronald Reagan's first wife and the actress who won an Oscar without saying a word in Johnny Belinda. But behind the sparkle sits a secretive youth, a marriage that weathered fame and grief, an ironclad vow of silence, a sharp religious turn, and whispers Hollywood still trades today. Here's the most personal, behind-the-scenes Jane Wyman. A name from a secret youth, how Sarah became Jane. She entered the world as Sarah Jane Mayfield in 1917, St. Joseph, Missouri, though studio bios later toyed with dates to make her seem older when it helped with work permits and contracts. Her father died early. Her mother, Gladys, struggled to start over. For a time, Sarah lived with neighbors named Folks, and the girl sometimes appeared in records as Sarah Jane Folks. That double identity, Mayfield versus Folks, wasn't a plot twist. It was survival, a paper trail shaped by circumstance. By 1933, the 16-year-old had a fierce, almost businesslike clarity about escape. She secretly married salesman Ernest Wyman, wrote 19 instead of 16 on the license, and stepped into adulthood 3 years ahead of schedule. The marriage fizzled by 1935, but she kept the surname, streamlined to the crisp, marquee-ready Jane Wyman. At the same time, she tested a radio persona, Jane Durrell, taking any on-air work she could find, quick reads, song intros, sponsor tags. She learned the rhythms of a microphone before she learned the rhythms of a stable home. Los Angeles gave her odd jobs, switchboard, shop counter, studio extra, and a ruthless tutorial. Age could be adjusted, names could be tuned like an instrument, and opportunity smiled on those who arrived sounding older, steadier, readier. That's why the two names, two ages puzzle isn't just gossip, it's a map of the only exits she could see. Would you forgive a little lie for a better life, if it was the only ticket out? We married at Forest Lawn. A dream wedding, children, and the blow that changed everything. She and Ronald Reagan moved in the same studio orbit in the late 1930s and quietly wed on January 26, 1940, at Wee Kirk o' the Heather, a tiny chapel at Forest Lawn, Glendale, a legendary Hollywood wedding spot. Daughter Maureen arrived January 4, 1941. In March 1945, they adopted newborn Michael. Then, on June 26, 1947, Jane delivered Christine prematurely. The baby lived only a few hours. The house fell silent. He disappeared into Screen Actors Guild meetings and union fights. She buried herself in work and in silence. In 1948, Jane filed for divorce. The paperwork was stark: mental cruelty. A final decree, 1949. As Johnny Belinda vaulted her to the top, gossip columns dined for months on a rumor that Wyman had grown close to co-star Lou Ayres. Never proven, endlessly repeated. Do you believe grief and production pressure can break a marriage faster than any rumor? Politics at the dinner table, and a principled silence. The late 40s were jumpy. Reagan, then a Democrat, was a visible SAG leader, all committees and suspicion lists. Wyman, registered Republican, was a perfectionist who demanded order and quiet at home. Dinner became a muffled argument. He talked cliques and discipline in the industry. She defended the right not to host politics in her living room. After the split, Jane drew a line she never crossed for decades. No word about former spouses. When 1981 made Reagan president, her rule didn't budge. Her private line of defense was silence. What matters more, being open for the press or a family's right to keep its own counsel? The no comment rule that became a personal brand. From the late 1970s, reporters were given ground rules in advance. No questions about Reagan, politics, or domestic scenes. If Jane mentioned him at all, it was brief and gracious. No barbs, no bombshells. In 1981, she entered history as the first former spouse of a sitting U.S. president and refused to turn it into a show. No big interviews, no White House photo ops for attention. In a town where private life is currency, Wyman sold silence. The less she said, the more people leaned in. Children, adoption, and the shadow of baby Christine. Her deepest story carries 3 names: Maureen, Michael, Christine. Maureen grew into a tough, self-directed woman, later active in civic and political life. With her mother, the relationship could be prickly but honest. Michael, adopted in March 1945, became a writer and radio host, forever balancing the pull of the Wyman and Reagan worlds, two homes, two styles of parenting. Christine remained the wound that never healed. Premature birth, a few hours of life in June 1947, then goodbye. Friends recalled one small baby item Jane kept tucked away, a private anchor to memories she never displayed. That habit explains her chill toward prying questions, her refusal to explain intimacy, and her steel-tight discipline. From faith to work rituals, much of it grew from parental grief, not diva whims. 5 marriages, twice to the same man. Her love life wasn't a fairy tale. It was a series of pragmatic choices. Ernest Wyman, 1933 to 1935, a teenage union that gave her the surname history remembers. Myron Futterman, 1937 to 1938, a well-heeled Los Angeles businessman, fast spark, faster fizzle. Ronald Reagan, 1940 to 1949, the marriage that, in hindsight, made her a former First Lady of sorts. Fred Karger, studio music director, twice 1952 to 1955 and 1961 to 1965. They loved each other's habits but couldn't live with the shared routine. No ugly press, no theatrics, just the candor of mismatch. Jane liked to say, "I'm better at working than at living." In 1950s to 60s, Hollywood, that sounded audacious. A woman willing to leave first if the price of staying got too high. Faith as freedom. Catholic conversion, the Dominican Third Order, a simple farewell. After her daughter's death and the divorce roller coaster, Wyman made a move few expected from a luminous star. In 1954, she entered the Catholic Church and later joined the Dominican Third Order for laypeople. It wasn't posturing, it was routine. Early Mass, quiet parish help, donations without cameras. At home, a small altar, a rosary, near monastic restraint. When she died in her sleep in September 2007, she was buried in Dominican habit, with a funeral at Sacred Heart in Palm Desert. Hollywood loves big finales. She chose a stage without scenery, and it spoke louder than applause. I won't write memoirs. A firm refusal to monetize the private. In the 1980s, publishers dangled handsome advances for The President's Ex-Wife to tell all. 6-figure front money, percentages, the works. Jane kept saying no. No confessional talk shows, no exposés, no trading in her children's past. In 2004, when Ronald Reagan died, her public statement was a single sentence. America had lost a great, kind, and gentle man. Period. In a city where privacy is currency, she sold nothing and earned something rarer: control over her own story. The rumors that won't die. Lou Ayres, secret voting, and the eternal whisper. 2 legends still circle. First, the rumor of a romance with Lou Ayres around the Johnny Belinda boom. No proof, but in 1948 to 49, the columns wove hints week after week. Second, that in Private Wyman, a registered Republican, voted for Reagan later as a candidate and quietly approved his political turn, something she never confirmed publicly. Both tales are fueled by her iron rule of silence. In a town where everyone talks, she chose not to, and turned quiet into the boldest scandal of all.